The rain poured steadily against the tall glass windows of the 27th floor. Inside, the air was crisp with the faint smell of expensive coffee and the tension of a meeting worth millions. The oak conference table stretched like a runway, lined with men and women in tailored suits, each one clutching tablets, papers, and guarded expressions. At the head sat Ethan Blake, the kind of man whose name appeared in financial magazines and whose face was instantly recognized on television business segments. He was the CEO of Blake Enterprises, a self-made millionaire who built an empire before turning 40. To the outside world, Ethan was the epitome of control, immaculately dressed, his silver watch gleaming under the recessed lights, his deep voice commanding attention without effort. But today, his eyes were tired, shadowed with something that had nothing to do with numbers. "Let's move to the next quarter's projections," one of the board members said, clicking to the next slide. Ethan nodded absently, his gaze shifting toward the glass wall that looked out onto the reception area. It was a blur of movement, assistants walking briskly, security guards checking passes, and then, something unusual. A small figure stood just beyond the double doors of the boardroom, barely visible between the suits. A little girl. She was no more than 8 or 9, her hair damp from the rain, wearing a faded pink sweater that was too big for her small frame. In her hands, she clutched a piece of paper like it was the most valuable thing in the world. Before anyone else noticed, Ethan's chest tightened. She looked familiar. A knock at the door interrupted the discussion. His assistant, Jenna, poked her head in, looking uneasy. "Sir, there's, someone here to see you. She says it's important." The room went silent. CEOs didn't get surprise visitors in board meetings, especially not little girls with rain-soaked sneakers. The board members exchanged confused glances. Ethan's voice softened in a way none of them had ever heard. "Let her in." The double doors opened slowly, and the little girl stepped inside. Her eyes were wide, scanning the room full of strangers in suits. She walked straight toward Ethan, her small shoes squeaking on the polished floor. "Are you Mr. Blake?" she asked timidly. "Yes," Ethan replied, leaning forward. "What's your name?" "Lily," she whispered, clutching the paper tighter. I wanted to give you this." She handed him the paper, her fingers trembling. Ethan unfolded it carefully. Inside was a crayon drawing, a man in a suit, holding hands with a little girl in a pink dress. Above them, in uneven letters, it read, "Thank you for saving my home." The board members shifted uncomfortably, clearly lost. But Ethan's throat tightened as recognition hit him like a wave. 3 months ago, Blake Enterprises had quietly purchased a bankrupt children's shelter that was about to be demolished. The plan had been to convert it into housing for low-income families, something Ethan had insisted on personally, though it had barely made a footnote in the press. He had visited the shelter once, wearing jeans and a baseball cap so no one would recognize him. He'd met the children briefly, never introducing himself as the man behind the decision. And there, in the corner that day, had been this very girl, sitting cross-legged with a coloring book, too shy to speak to him. Now, she stood in front of him in the middle of a high-stakes corporate meeting, holding the kind of gift no money could buy. "Thank you," she said again, her voice quivering. "The lady at the shelter said, if you didn't buy it, we would have to leave. And I'd have to say goodbye to my friends. But now, we can stay." The room was still. The only sound was the rain. Ethan set the drawing down gently, then stood. "Lily," he said softly, "would you like to dance?" Her eyes widened in confusion. "Here." "Right here," he said, offering his hand. Because sometimes, the best way to celebrate is with a dance. A few of the board members chuckled awkwardly, but Ethan didn't care. He stepped away from the head of the table, removed his jacket, and knelt to her level. She hesitated, then placed her tiny hand in his. And right there, in the middle of a boardroom filled with million-dollar contracts and profit charts, Ethan Blake began to sway with Lily. No music. Just the faint patter of rain and the sound of quiet gasps from people who had never seen this side of him. For a moment, time slowed. The hardened faces around the table softened. The tension in the room dissolved. Even the most cynical of his executives couldn't look away from the sight of the most powerful man in the building spinning a little orphan girl as if nothing else in the world mattered. When they stopped, Lily grinned for the first time since she walked in. "You dance funny," she giggled. Ethan laughed. A real laugh, the kind he hadn't felt in years. "I know. But thank you for teaching me." She reached into her sweater pocket and pulled out a lollipop, placing it in his palm. "For you. 'Cause you gave me something too." And then, she hugged him. A quick, tight squeeze that knocked the air out of him in the best way possible. Ethan's voice cracked as he said, "You've given me more than you know, Lily." Before she left, he whispered something to Jenna. The next day, Blake Enterprises announced the creation of the Lily Foundation, a program that would provide funding, mentorship, and housing for orphan children across the country. The board didn't even question it, not after witnessing that moment. And for years to come, whenever Ethan looked at the crayon drawing framed in his office, he remembered the day a little girl walked into a boardroom and reminded him, and everyone there, that success is not measured in profits, but in the lives you touch. Because sometimes, one small act of kindness can stop even the busiest world in its tracks, and change it forever.